Throughout probably the past 6 months, I have been building this giant build, which I'm building a giant game inside of. But it kinda takes away from the overall effect, seeing as how the build is less than halfway finished. As you can see, it's only about 60 blocks tall, and I'm not satisfied with that. So today we are going to get to work on fully building up the entirety of this build. Welcome to episode 17 of Crowns of Fire. After building up this section for a long time, we're done, and now we can begin with the stone layer, which shouldn't take too much more time, seeing as how we have all of the supplies ready at hand. After about a day's worth of work on the build, we actually have every single bit of wall placed in. And this took somewhere around 60 or 70,000 blocks, which is insane. But now we have to actually build the roof, which is one of the largest sections of this entire build. Luckily, the roof is very simple, and we already have a very small farm for the block in question. That block is moss. We want to make the top of the dungeon run look like a sort of natural area that's been lifted up hundreds of blocks into the air, with one massive hole in the center that drops down into the main lobby of Dungeon Run, which will be constructed right above here. The crazy thing, actually, about this build is that this was the original height I had planned for the entirety of the structure, and we've exceeded that by probably 40 or 50 blocks, which is just crazy. From way down there at the sea level, the build is 170 blocks tall exactly, which is literally 50 blocks more than we originally had planned. We wanted to do 120 blocks, and that's not a small difference for a base this size, so we ended up using a lot more blocks than expected. Way over 100,000 will be used in the final construction. But now that's over, we need to get to work on building the actual moss roof, which I have some very unique plans for, but I'll keep that until later in the video. This green outline that we've laid down along the edge of the build is going to be where our moss starts. We want it to kind of look like it's overgrown the build a little bit, and we're going to add in a whole bunch of leaves as vines and all kinds of other stuff just to make it look a lot more natural and really like it's overgrown. But until then, we have to go through and fill up all of this to the top with moss. After a lot of work and many hours of just sitting here placing moss blocks, which I did not record because there's already been 2 time lapses, which is probably too many, the roof is finally done with a lot of help from Jester and Bulba, to which I am very grateful, especially Bulba. He placed so much moss. Even when I was offline, he would just come over and work on my base, and I'm not sure why, but thank you, B. It's very helpful. The next step we have to do here is add in trees, because yes, while this feels like its own gargantuan biome, it's a little bit, empty and bland. Once we get the trees and some grass in here, it's gonna feel a lot more full and less just like a giant meadow, which is not what we want it to look like. We want a forest here. And now we have gone through the entire base and detailed it with a lot of azalea trees. Originally, we were actually going to do regular oak tree style and custom all of the trees. But I didn't realize quite how large my base actually is. So yeah, that's not even close to an option. The top level of leaf cover looks amazing. I'm really proud of this. It just came along really nice and it kind of falls toward the center just how I wanted it to. And then over here, if we actually fly into the base itself, most of the ground looks a lot like this. So not very much going on, just some, trees. It's kind of all that's happening. But in certain areas, usually deeper in, you can actually find, if I can actually get there, you can find a bunch of grass and things like this, and even these trees. I've changed out the bottom few blocks of the log just to give it a more varied feel. So these are actually what I want the forest to look like in the end of the project, but that's going to be a project for later because there's a lot of trees still left to be built. And we still have to finish Dungeon Run, which we have been slowly chipping away at in the background. As you can see down there, a lot of those have a lot of new colors in them. Yes, we are detailing it, which means the next step is actually getting save data files, quests, a lot of other things. And if we can finish this section, we will begin building level 2. That is one of the things we want to begin working on in the next episode. Until then, though, you should go check out some of the other videos on my channel where we've done some pretty crazy things from building a fully automatic tunnel bore to, well, planning out the construction for this monstrosity. I'll see you in the next video.